On Monday, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker announced that he's ending his bid for the Democratic presidential nomination. While the postmortem will focus on broader questions, it's worth noting what his exit highlights about the complicated relationship Democrats have with charter schools. It wasn't too long ago that Booker was seen as a potential heir to the Obama mantle, and Booker's support for charter schooling was an important part of that. After all, support for charter schooling had helped Democrats like Bill Clinton and Obama make the case that their ambitious plans weren't politics as usual or just a case of tax and spend. Instead, they argued that charters helped illustrate their efforts to forge a new, responsible center that would fight for both spending and results, and that was willing to embrace market mechanisms and to stand up to the teachers' unions. Democratic presidential candidate Senator Cory Booker, DNJ, speaks with attendees after a campaign event in Mount Vernon, Iowa. Booker dropped out of the presidential race on January 13. AP photo, Patrick Szymanski, Associated Press. Indeed, Booker's rise to prominence was fueled by his efforts on behalf of school choice. A former student of Stanford, Professor Terry Moe, who helped catalyze the school choice movement 30 years ago with the influential Brookings book Politics, Markets, and America's Schools, Booker eloquently made the case for all forms of school choice, including school vouchers. Recall that charter schools were birthed in the early 1990s as a distinctly bipartisan project, one that married Democratic concerns for equity and educator empowerment with Republican concerns for parental choice and accountability. In 2000, as a Newark City Councilman, Booker accepted an invitation from now Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos to argue in favor of school vouchers at a Grand Rapids debate. In the mid-2000s, Booker was a prominent face, along with figures like New York City Chancellor Joel Klein and D.C. Chancellor Michelle Rhee, of Charter-Friendly Democrats for Education Reform, DFDR. A decade later, as the mayor of Newark, Booker partnered with Republican Governor Chris Christie and Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg to raise $200 million to launch a bold school reform effort in Newark. A cornerstone of the plan was a dramatic expansion of charter schooling in the city. In just 2 years, Newark charter enrollment doubled. When people talked about Booker's ambitions, they often pointed to his work around school choice as evidence of his skill at forging coalitions. Booker's coffers were juiced by DFDR donors who embraced his mixture of progressive bona fides and charter advocacy. When Booker ran for his Senate seat in 2013, his support for charter schooling was part of his general election pitch to New Jersey Republicans. Until pretty recently, Booker's education legacy was seen as a big asset. Yet, over the past few years, something funny happened. In the Trump years, as politics has polarized, the progressive base dug in, and teacher unions got their groove back, the 2020 Democratic race quickly devolved into a competition to see which candidate could promise the biggest jump in federal spending, most convincingly pledge their support to the teachers' unions, and most energetically denounce all things Trump. Charter schools got caught up in the undertow, with candidates distancing themselves from one-time support for school choice. For Booker, his history made this dance complicated, especially given his longtime ties with the deep-pocketed philanthropists who have supported school reform. Booker had to work overtime to reassure the base that he didn't have a worrisome purple streak. Booker tried a number of strategies. When he launched his campaign in February, he hadn't quite read the tea leaves and presented himself as a supporter of charter schools. By May, with his campaign struggling to gain traction, he shifted and vowed to fight against charters laws that were raiding public education and hurting public schools. Then, unable to find any space in the progressive lane, Booker pivoted again, using a November New York Times op-ed to clarify that he was for charter schools but only for high-achieving ones, and that he was opposed to for-profit charters. In working to reassemble the Obama coalition, Booker had to wrestle with the reality that, on the left, there's a stark racial schism on charter schools. While Black and Hispanic Democrats continue to heavily support charters, white progressives are increasingly skeptical. That line has proven to be a tough one to walk. The rest of the field has felt freer to stroke the base's collective id by condemning charters as some kind of Trump DeVos monstrosity. None of this is to say that Booker's campaign failed because of charter schooling. There was plenty else at work, including his famed "I am Spartacus" moment. But Booker's withdrawal should put charter schooling front and center. For decades, successful national Democrats have used charter schooling as one way to show that they're focused on opportunity and outcomes, and not just on taxing and spending. That has clearly changed. What that means for Democrats, or for the education debates, isn't yet so clear. What is clear is that it's bad for charter schools if they become a creature of one political party. Let's block ads. Why?